everything in nature has its own way of communication. And you can tune in on that. And this is how you reach your own multidimensionality, because we can alter our own vibration to where a plant, a tree, the sea, the ocean, the water, the fire, they all have their own language. And suddenly the world is no longer the world as I thought it was.
Welcome to Don't Step on the Bluebells, the podcast where personal healing and transformation take center stage. I'm your host, Amanda Parker, and I'm a fellow seeker on the journey of personal growth. Join me as I delve into the stories of gifted healers, guides, and everyday people who have experienced remarkable transformations. Listen in as they share their practical wisdom to enrich your everyday life. And don't forget to hit subscribe and never miss a new episode. Welcome to today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells, where I'm speaking with the remarkable Blue Star, a gifted healer, medium, storyteller, and teacher of spirituality from the Netherlands. Blue Star's journey is as fascinating as it is inspiring. From her childhood experiences of vivid dreams and intuitive insights to her studies in music and psychology, Blue Star has always been drawn to uncovering deeper truths about human existence. Her path led her to explore various forms of healing and shamanism, connecting with medicine people from different tribes worldwide. In today's episode, Blue Star shares profound insights that challenge our conventional understanding of health and consciousness, including cellular memory and how trauma can be stored in our bodies, and the importance of connecting with nature and the elements as a powerful tool for healing and self-discovery. Blue Star illuminates the path to holistic healing and spiritual awakening, offering practical wisdom on how to tap into our innate abilities. So let's dive in. Blue Star, thank you so much for agreeing to be here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We were connected through a mutual contact of ours who I only met actually last year and who has already had quite a profound impact on me. And she was quite insistent. No, you need to speak to Blue Star. I know that there's something there that you're really going to connect on. So I'm happy that Naomi has put us in contact with one another.
Me too.
So I know that you have a wealth of experience, and it was quite difficult to decide what was going to be the best conversation that we could actually have today. But in our conversations, what I realized is something that's really prevalent in the world and in your world of work at the moment is a lot of this fear that is happening throughout the world.
Yes.
And so today we're going to be talking a bit about what that fear is and how we can actually work with that and actually move through it.
As an eternal spirit, connected with eternal spirit, we have this amazing body. And in evolution, it took millions of years before we have this beautiful body. We had ancestors, we all have ancestors, and they wanted to save their lives in a difficult situation. So when there was a sound that they didn't know, it could be an animal that would like to eat them. What happened was there was a survival mechanism coming up in the evolution to save the body. And this survival mechanism is fear. When does fear come up? That is when there's something we don't know, it clicks in. So the trigger is when something you don't know, suddenly there is this survival mechanism and you have the stress hormones to run away, because it could have been at the time a lion. The fear, the survival mechanism clicks in, and the brain, which is an organ that can talk to itself, I will explain that later, takes over and says, oh, what could this be? And then we make the most incredible scenarios because we are creative people. And we give more and more and more and more fear of all our scenarios, you know. And the thing is, we can bring ourselves into a panic and nothing is going on. But you have completely identified with fear. So this is how the shamans see it. When you register fear, the only thing you have to say is, oh, that is fear. And I don't have to do anything with it. There's something I don't know, and that's okay. Nobody ever explained these survival mechanisms that we have in the body that we live in, and we identify with it. And the moment you say, I am afraid, and you bring in all the scenarios, then suddenly you are not happy.
I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people who are listening because we have so much access to information and news and world events and things that are happening in the world. So, in the past, we might have been afraid of the lion, which is a very justified fear. But now people are also afraid of things that may never even touch the soil where they live. But there's so much access to things to be afraid of.
Yes.
How exactly would you define fear in this situation?
This has more to do with injustice.
Mm.
And you see there is injustice, and there is in the human being this great love for the world and for others to have a good life. So I absolutely believe in the goodness of us all. Of course, fear has the other side of it, is being at peace with yourself and being at peace in your world. And if you feel that the peace is being threatened for yourself or for others, then you want to make a balance. And often you cannot. Certainly not when it is happening somewhere else in the world. So what you do then is you register the injustice and you ask yourself, is there something I can do here to make it better? And if there is nothing you can do, you just say, I send my light. There's nothing I can do. And then you let it go because your biological energy you need for yourself and for living. And of course, we have great compassion for others. And you make your wish. You do your prayer, you could say, in a way, and then you let go because it is not the idea that you start worrying about something you cannot do anything about.
I love that framing that this is about the desire for others to have that good life, to genuinely want well for others.
Mm.
It's a beautiful reframe from what I just said, which was that this is fear-based. And I think a lot, I just see it a lot in my world. And I know I have fallen to this many times as well, where you don't always know what's yours to do. So there's a lot of pressure on social media or just in modern society that you should speak up more, you should do more. There's a lot of this sort of noise out there. And what you're saying, what I'm hearing that you're saying is that actually the most powerful thing and empowering thing we can do is recognize what is ours to do, what we can actually control, and let go of the rest, because otherwise we just deplete our own personal power and energy.
And I do not say push it away. I say you acknowledge there is injustice. And then for yourself, you can look from, is there something I can do? That's all. And not everybody, you could say, has the, let's say, vibration to do whatever you need to do. So there are journalists, they write about it, so we know. There are filmmakers, they register this is happening, so the world knows. We are all in this together. And that is the thing. It is not a thing that is over there. It is also part of our world. So it is my world. And I love everybody in principle. And here it comes. The person is beautiful, but the behavior is not always beautiful. So love can always be there, but please change your behavior. And this is a thing I help people also with trauma. And one of the things that was very difficult, that was, for example, a problem with sexuality when somebody is abused. Now, the thing here is, do not stop love, but the behavior is not okay. Because when you stop loving the other, you stop loving it in yourself. And then it is a double pain. So I found out that when we can really discern from love is, but behavior can be corrected, then you can work with it.
That reminds me of, well, it's a lot of what I teach just in my coaching work about what we see and observe in others is a mirror for what's happening within.
Yes.
So looking at it from the perspective that you're sharing, it's the moment that we start, I don't know, hating someone or making them wrong or bad, we're also cutting that off within ourselves.
Yes. And it is a vibration that is not good for your own body. And this is what people forget, that when you start hating or judging, you take away your personal freedom. And it has a vibration that is really not beneficial for the body that you live in. And you feel your heart going down, and etc., etc. So, and we are not aware that we are the ones making ourselves sick. So what you can do for yourself is that you, in your world, stays in balance. And for that, we need to be aware of where we are, of what is going on. So there is, like I was taught by what we call a person who knows, and came on my path. And the first things that I was taught, we have the stories of evolution. And with the stories of evolution, you learn how to deal with it. So we all like to be in our center and peaceful. But sometimes things happen that we are being thrown out of our inner center. Now, the first one, of course, is fear. You suddenly identify with the fear and everything that can happen to you. And then you make yourself afraid even more. And so you're out of your center. And the ancient shamans, they call it a sickness of the evolution. So you don't have to take it personally. It is just the sickness of the evolution. Now, the second sickness of evolution is doubt. Oh my gosh. Did I make the right decision? Couldn't I have done this? Should I, and you lose all your energy in going into doubt. So actually, it is also a sickness of evolution. Now, the third one is you have decided, I'm going to do this and this and this. Beautiful journey. Your plane isn't going. And you're totally panicked. What can I do now? So it is, we call that the sickness of surprise, because it throws you out of your center. Now, the fourth one is something we do not like to think about, because we all think we are here forever, but apparently we are not. We hear a lot about death. We never think it will happen to us. But when it happens, suddenly, a lover suddenly has an accident, then this is actually, you're perplexed. Oh my gosh, and this is also a sickness. We call it the sickness of perplexity, because you never embraced that it could happen to you. Now, the thing is that when it happens and you can say, oh, now I'm in the sickness of perplexity, and then you embrace your grief or you embrace whatever, but you are not lost. It doesn't eat you up. You still have a sense of self. And you say, yeah, I hadn't seen this one coming. And you love yourself. You're compassionate with yourself and the others because the person that goes is free from here and you need to go on. And how do you do that? And that is by embracing yourself and see where you are in time and space. And
thank you for describing those four illnesses. That gives me a lot of context as well. And for anyone who's listening in now who might be experiencing grief, so
yeah,
let's say that scenario has taken place where you've lost someone really close to you and you're
yes,
facing the so-called illness of perplexity. You mentioned that it's really in, I might get this wrong, but really in coming back home to yourself or reconnecting to yourself that you're able to move through that. What does that actually mean for someone who's experiencing grief? How do you move through this perplexity?
the thing is that we can shift our attention. So if your attention is completely on the loss of somebody you loved so much, then your brain is going to fix on it. And you're going to be completely in this loss. And it can take at least 9 months then to come out of it. So there's 9 months of not living. The thing is, what we do not understand what is death actually. We are living in this beautiful body, and there is a certain time span, and we can lengthen it by taking care of it. There comes a moment that the spirit of life that is all around us and that has its own momentum, the body cannot carry that spirit of life anymore.
Mm.
And you yourself, you go on, because we all have what the Aboriginal people say, you have yourself an eternal songline. So you were never born and you will never die. The essence of what you are is spirit. Now, the thing is that your loved one has that too, also his or her eternal spirit. But the body couldn't handle it anymore, you know? The other one, you could say, is moving on his eternal journey, and you will terribly miss him or her. And you own that, because grieving is because you love so much. And that is beauty. And to say, Van, I loved him or her so much. And then at the same time knowing that person is moving on his eternal journey. And of course you grieve. That's all right. And that goes in waves. But at the same time, you know, the eternal part doesn't stop, and neither does my eternal part stop. And then you have, for those who, the shamans, the mediums, that you can still have a conversation. That is not a fantasy. You can.
That is something I think a lot of people are uncertain about or haven't always been exposed to. So I know in my own studies of this world, I believe in this. I know this is possible. I've had conversations myself. And I think a lot of people are, let's say, skeptical. Maybe they've never had an experience of that themselves until they do, you know? So I find that always fascinating because I speak with a lot of different people with different belief systems, and even the most, let's say, rigid or, really focused on the here and now in their very earthly world are curious. They want to believe in the magic. They want to know there's something more. So even if maybe they don't yet know if they believe in an afterlife or have been taught that that doesn't exist, that we reincarnate or come back onto Earth or anything else, I've never met someone who is just adamantly against it or against the possibility that reconnecting with someone you love even after they've left their body is possible.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, something that you mentioned when you were speaking is that we have the ability to change our experience or change how we're feeling. I think you said through the way that we talk to ourselves or through that inner conversation that's going on.
It has again to do with that we do not know in what kind of body or beautiful organic system we actually live. We learn about arithmetics and history, but we do not learn about what is this amazing body. Uh, of course, we learn about the organs and what they do, but we do not learn about what is the brain actually. If you look again in evolution, then you see that the development of the brain was bigger and bigger and got bigger, you know, even that our mouth and faces were changing so that the brain could fit, which is one of the problems of breathing, actually. It's not enough space for breathing. The mouth gets smaller. It's amazing. This brain in evolution, then, it got so big that at a certain moment there was a moment of what we call critical mass. Now, have you ever seen a bucket with water? And there's so much water that there is like the water is going like this a little bit. And then this is critical, huh? And there is one extra drop, poof, and suddenly the water flows over. Well, this happened with the brain. In that poof moment, the brain could start talking to itself. It became conscious of itself. And this is the basis of what we call the internal dialogue. And we call it I. Now, I have a very funny thing. This came actually from Krishnamurti in the past. And he says, okay, here I am. And now I'm giving a real, real difficult problem to my brain. And to the same brain, I say, solve it. You know what happens? You go crazy. You go in circles. You go in loops endlessly. And you go in fixation. Now, and this is the thing. We go in fixation. When there's something not solved, then we go in fixation. And we keep on, yeah, but maybe I should have, and if I do this, but it's fixation. It is the brain talking to itself. You lose a lot of energy on that.
Yeah.
And you still think it is you, but it is an impossible thing. And this is fixation also on the brain. So you give your life in the hands of your own brain. And the brain should be there to help you, but not taking over. And then there is this terrible, what I call a bit of a terrible thing. And that is, of course, we live in communities and we have certain rules. And suddenly you identify with the rules. And then you think you are not good enough, not beautiful enough, not thin enough, not whatever. But these are social rules, has nothing to do with who you are. You are beautiful. You are amazing. You are a wonder. You are a spirit temporarily in a body. I mean, we are literally an absolute miracle. And then we have learned in society to judge ourselves. It's so painful to see young people judging themselves on social rules and they cannot see the beauty that they are. Well, the brain is an amazing organ, but it should not rule you. Or it should help you. Yeah.
Yeah. So if someone is coming to you and you have the sense that they're brain is working overtime, let's say. I mean, for example, a woman who I was working with in a coaching setting just yesterday
Yeah.
had a situation. It didn't go how she wanted. She spent a week and a half ruminating, basically, just going over and over and over. And from her description, was just able to pull herself out of that.
Yeah.
So if someone were to come to you, Blue Star, and say, I don't even know what's going on, they're in the midst of this over analysis, what would you do? How would you support them?
Well, the thing is, in the meantime, you have stress hormones really screaming through your body. So it makes no sense to talk to a person who is full of stress hormones. So what you do, you take a Tibetan bowl.
Hmm.
Boom! And you just the sound of the bowl or the sound of the gong or the sound of the drum, you know, takes over of the babbling of the brain then. So then you can bring a person back into its peace because talking when somebody is so in stress makes no sense. So you need to see what is possible. People under stress hormones cannot listen.
Hmm.
It's too many stress hormones. So bring them down and then calm down. It's okay. I'm there. We will get out of this, but calm down. It's all right. So you kind of okay, she knows what we are doing. And even if you have no idea, doesn't matter. The brain needs to come down, the stress hormones need to go down, and then at a certain moment you feel, okay, now we can move on.
That sounds like a relief. Like listening to what you're describing really feels like,
Yeah.
because imagine, I mean, I'm imagining for myself if I'm in a situation and I'm overthinking and I'm stressed and someone comes with advice or they come in to try to help me figure out what to do next, it's just adding on to
Yeah.
already compounded stress.
Yes.
So you're actually taking them completely out of that realm through
Yes.
sound or vibration using the Tibetan singing bowls or drums or other tools like that. And it brings them just completely out of that headspace.
Yes, exactly. And if you notice for yourself you are in that space, then start singing
Hmm.
or put on music that you like, so you help yourself to come down and be gentle to yourself. It's okay, even if we are, And of course, you cannot handle another person who means well.
God, we all mean so well.
Yeah, but you don't need it. Besides, you didn't ask for it.
Mm,
It's but people want to help, and
yeah.
and that's sweet. And we all have been there.
Mhm. This is also really fascinating. When someone finds themselves in that situation, you say, okay, sing, listen to music. I was going to add in dance around the living room because I do that often.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
how else can you calm yourself in those moments when you start to realize either your mind is on overdrive or you're no
Go
longer in control of what you're feeling?
go to the gym, start running, walking, do exercises, dancing. So you've got to distract yourself that the stress hormones come down. And if you are too long in a situation with stress, then the stress hormones make the body acid. And from that, in the end, you make your body sick, and we don't even know that we have done it ourselves because this is an incredible, beautiful biological machine. But we have not learned that what you think is not you, it's just a thought.
Mm.
And we identify with what we think and believe. And here we should ask ourselves, oh, is this really true?
So this reminds me a bit of the book by Michael A. Singer. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, The Untethered Soul.
No, I don't know him.
It's a beautiful book. It was a very profound, yeah, something that I found a few years ago on my journey. But I think he opens up, I don't know if it's the first chapter or the third chapter, and it's really this inquisition about who is talking to me. Who
Ah,
is that voice that keeps talking? Like, what are they saying? Where do they get their authority? And really starting to identify that this voice that we keep hearing over and over and over, it's not actually you.
yeah,
And it never shuts up.
yeah. Unless you tell it to shut up.
Mm,
Sometimes that helps.
good. That's good to know.
The thing is that we are also receivers and senders of energy. And we receive a lot of the energy of emotions that are of people around us. So, one of the questions that if you suddenly feel a lot of sadness, then the first question is this from me? Or did I pick it up? And most of the time, I would say 95%, which is a lot, it's not yours at all. You picked it up. And even what I found personally, that was the planet Earth itself can sometimes be in distress. And I pick up the Earth energy that is in distress, and what helps is to know where it comes from, this distress. And the moment I identify, the me identifies with the distress, and I don't want it, I put myself in more stress. So it is really, how can we teach ourselves and others, van, it's all right, don't worry, it's not even yours,
Mm.
to recognize what is going on.
So, how could you identify? I mean, you have a lot of experience with this, but for people who don't, how do you identify when you say, is this mine? How do
Yeah.
you know?
Sometimes it can take a day before I even come up with a question
Mm.
because I really thought I was sad.
Mm.
And then suddenly, oh, wait a minute, is this mine? And
Mm.
immediately then, then I can change it. So
Okay.
this thing of the question, the moment of the question, that's a big moment. It is about awareness, and this is training.
Okay.
So, and sometimes I even forget.
Yeah.
When I live a little bit outside of Amsterdam in a quiet village, and I like Amsterdam, but I forget a lot of stories happened in Amsterdam, and I can pick them up like that, and then I come back and I'm really I'm down, and then I forgot that. Oh, typically I pick up stories that are not mine.
Mm.
So that is training. Ask yourself, is this feeling, does it belong to me? And you kind of, nah. And then, for example, what I do, because I sometimes channel people, this is, by the way, a very funny question. What is the difference between a spirit with a body or a spirit without a body?
I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing is
Mm.
there's no difference. It's all spirit.
Mm.
And this is funny in a way. It's, yeah, it's the mind says, what? I thought this is my reality. You
Mm.
know? But these days, more and more, everything opens up
Mm.
and connections are faster. We know direct knowledge, we know direct consciousness of somebody else. There is an incredible opening because all the vibrations have raised,
Mm.
and which I find very interesting. So
Mm.
we, in that sense, and you hear it say by a lot of people busy with spirituality, we live in very interesting times.
Mm. So I would love to hear from you. I have a sense of who you are today, but I would love to know, how did you get to be here? What
Yeah.
was the journey that brought you to this work, to what you do in the world today? I'd love to know more.
I was born the fifth child in a family of eight. And I was raised, my parents were Roman Catholic, and I asked always a lot of questions.
Mm.
And most of the time, I didn't like the answers. I was, I don't think so, And I left home when I was 18. And I already had these experiences when I was laying in the garden and looking up to the clouds. The clouds were changing form, like we all do when we are children. And then I could suddenly feel I was the cloud. And I was, whoa. And then I felt that funny feeling in my stomach. And so those were interesting things. I wanted to know, for how is this possible? And my mother didn't know this. So she said, be normal. And then I studied music and psychology. I went to the university. Um, and I did the whole thing of primal scream and gestalt therapy and becoming everything you see, because that is. So I learned about perception in that sense. And then I had a relation with a man who could very easily go out of his body.
Mm.
So he taught me how to be busy with lucid dreaming, but I still didn't know how does it fit together.
Mm.
And then in 1991, I met a medicine man, and I had dreamt him 4 years before that. And when I met him, I had, oh my God, this is the man I dreamt 4 years ago.
Wow.
Because, yeah, it was a vision at the time. And I was so nervous. You know, oh my God. No, in the end, he became my teacher. And you have a lot of, actually, I had a lot of frustration that the way I was raised didn't fit what he was telling. So
Mm.
in the beginning, you try to make the medicine man wrong.
I've done that with many teachers.
I was kind of prove it, stuff
Mm.
like that. And one time I could see that he was suddenly half a meter bigger.
Mm.
And I was, oh my God. So, then I had some funny experiences there. That one side of, it was, so he could change, you could say, the material world and his material body.
Mm.
So that meant that things were not so fixed as I thought they were. So slowly on, I had my own experiences. And it always was, the drumming. So you come in a different state of being. I was the first woman in Holland that played the didgeridoo in
Mm.
1984 already.
Mm.
And I was always, we had at the conservatory, we had an exercise that you needed to sing a tone and then one tone up. Da, 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 for 15 minutes and then da, da. So it is what we call tiny. But at a certain moment, the teacher said, can you now sing a chord? Da, da. And then that was an incredible space suddenly. And I was just focusing on these two tones and then singing a chord instead of a secunda, the two. The space, the feeling of space was immense. And I said to myself, I wasn't busy with these things at the time, but I said, whoa, I am in a different space now. And so it is all what works for you. And this is, you find out what works for you.
Mm.
Everybody can say, oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, but you find what works for you. That's good enough. It is your life. People, they invent methods. That is nice. You can try them out. And then you say, nah, it doesn't resonate for me. Perfect. You find in life, because it's a gift of life to you, you find what resonates. And then the simple thing is, if it really makes you happy, you're on the right track.
Hmm. When you had met this medicine man who became your teacher, I mean, I'm still curious to know what then, because I know you have so much influence, like so many different influences in the work that you do. So was that a moment of meeting this person, this man, of saying, oh, wow, I know my life is about to change? Was that a commitment to a path of shamanism? What happened then for you?
He taught me the medicine wheel. And you are the center of the world because you are the one perceiving it. So I was sitting there in my room, and I was going into the northern wind direction, and I was looking in a way into my future. And I could see what was going to happen there. And indeed, that happened later on. And I did the same in the East. And it was suddenly through the medicine wheel that I could place my life and my experiences in a circle. And then by doing that, it somehow made sense for me, that I was the one perceiving the world around me. That was big. So every time again, and one of the more normal exercises was make no judgments.
Mm.
And I was, oh, I can do that. Well, it was one of the most difficult exercises I got,
Mm.
because apparently I made a judgment on everything. And I was not aware that I was doing that. By being aware that I made judgments all the time, I realized that I was taking away my freedom, that things could be different. And that was amazing. That by having no judgments, so I have no idea who that person is, could be anything, or I have no idea what that tree is, can be anything. And then I really started to look at the person or a tree, or what are you exactly? What can you do? And then feeling my body as resonance. And this is how I taught myself the different languages of nature, that everything in nature has its own way of communication. And you can tune in on that. And this is how you reach your own multidimensionality, because we can alter our own vibration to where a plant, a tree, the sea, the ocean, the water, the fire, they all have their own language. And suddenly the world is no longer the world as I thought it was. And then, of course, I couldn't stop.
You had a taste of it.
Yeah. And then, in my teachings, for example, I have a teaching about getting to know your crystals. A lot of people, they love their stones, their crystals. But most people do not know that crystal has a spirit and you can talk to it. And then suddenly the stone is no longer a stone, it's a friend.
I am surrounded by crystals, so I might need to get in touch with you to understand who is
Great.
sitting here with me.
That's great. And their beauty is amazing. And why do they appeal to us? Because the resonance in us is about beauty then. And the color is giving us an uplift. And this is what we call, with the Indians, this is medicine. So when we talk about medicine, or when I talk about medicine, it is something that uplifts my spirit. My house is also full of crystals. And when somebody tells me, Van, oh, you really have a lot of crystals, shouldn't you stop buying them? And then I say, how much beauty can one handle? And I say, well, I'm the keeper of beautiful things, and when I leave this plane, then they go back to others and hopefully they like it.
Mm.
So I'm not fixed on them, but they give me great happiness.
Mm. I know that we're nearing the end of our time together, and I have many more questions, but I'll have to save them for another conversation. But I'd love for you to share with listeners, if they're curious to learn more, how they can get in touch with you, maybe under which circumstances they should get in touch with you. So
Yeah,
anything you want to share there.
I made a website. I realized it is never about me, and so now I made a website that is it's called Light Beacon,
Mm.
because I would like to help people to find their own light. It is not about Blue Star, I do my thing, but you find your own light, and then we walk in the world together. So if you find the website of lightbeacon.nu, and I will always answer the mail.
Mm.
So I drum and bring people then in a place where you can experience it yourself.
So I will link to your website on the show notes. So for anyone who's curious and wants to get in touch, you'll have that link right there.
Lovely.
And I understand that people can come to you for like private sessions, but you also teach. So if they want to learn how to expand on their own as well, they can come to you for teaching, for
Yes.
learning.
Yes. And there's so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So, is there maybe one last piece of advice that you'd like to give to someone who maybe they're just starting out on this journey? So, they're just starting to find their way to themselves or to spirituality, and this is sort of new for them. What
Yes.
advice would you give them?
You are already there.
Perfect.
This finding out what makes you tick, what makes you happy, and stop comparing yourself to what others do, unless it is to uplift yourself, but not to put yourself down. I cannot do that, so I'm not good. So it is really, oh, that's interesting. Let me try it. So you always uplift yourself because it's your journey. It's not the journey of somebody who's doing something else. You take ownership of your journey.
That's perfect. So, for anyone who's listening and they really want to expand, and the words of Blue Star have resonated with you, as I am sure they have with many, then definitely get in touch. You're listening to this episode for a reason, and you're connecting in right here, right now for a reason. So, Blue Star, I am so grateful that
Mm.
you have joined me here on Don't Step on the Bluebells and for sharing all of this really incredible wisdom so openly and playfully as well.
And thank you so much, Amanda, for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit of the knowledge. Yes, that was a gift to me.
Oh, to me as well. And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in to Don't Step on the Bluebells, and see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. If you enjoyed this conversation, please give the podcast a 5-star rating wherever you listen. And don't forget to hit subscribe and follow along so you never miss a new episode.